Mom's been cooking. She's making an old classic. This is just hamburger stew. It needs to thicken a little bit and needs the carrots and potatoes in it. But she's got the onion and the celery, the meat, the spices, garlic. We still have a hot surface here, and this is where I do the measuring for the sourdough. So I've actually waited on that. I do need to stir them. I'm looking for, I haven't found the brown rice. I just have one more place I need to look because the white rice just isn't thick enough. On this gluten-free one, the white rice, look at all the liquid, the level of the liquid. It's just separating too much. And I've researched and found a recipe for sourdough, gluten-free. Uses a lot of different flours, including buckwheat, millet, and potato starch, which is pretty common in gluten-free. But that's for another day. What we're probably going to do sometime later is Mom got these pretzel rods, and she wants to dip them in caramel and chocolate. So that's going to happen at some point today. Didn't get much done yesterday, but and tomorrow we have to take Mom's car in to get some work done on it. So tomorrow's pretty well shot. It's an hour drive, and then have to wait and an hour drive back. So that tomorrow's pretty well done. But that's what's going on today. When we get to the pretzel rods, we'll do some more recording. I just ground about 3/4 of a cup of brown rice. Comes to about half of the pint jar. But I'm going to measure that. The white rice isn't mixing as well with the liquid, so I'm going to try the brown rice instead, which is something I needed to do anyway. I just had to remember where Mom stashed her brown rice. So far, there are the materials for the pretzel rods. Haven't been done. Mom's stew is doing nicely. I'm gonna make some baking powder biscuits and just using the recipe on the can. You only get a bowl out and try to mix some up real quick. I've got this all done except for mixing the milk in. You actually sift the dry ingredients and then you cut in the shortening. I'm getting ready to add the milk, but I'm waiting for the oven to get hot and for the time, because 12 to 15 minute bake with the time it takes me to do it. I'm not going to cut them in rounds. I'm actually just going to use a knife and cut them in squares. I do need to lightly grease a pan. I'm going to mix this. Go ahead and mix this now. This is actually buttermilk, not just milk. Just because I don't use much milk, but Mom has some buttermilk around. Because her stomach's been upset, she's been using the buttermilk. The oven just beeped that it's warm. I've almost got this mixed, then I'm going to knead it for just a short time. The can of baking powder says about 30 seconds, and then have the rolling pin, can use it. I have another recipe of this somewhere. I've never actually tried it, but they've been good recipes in the past. It's a church cookbook that makes different things actually from scratch, not from open a box and mix it with this, which I don't really care for those type recipes. I like using the basics and making things from scratch, not from a box of whatever. I'm going to add a little more flour to the board, roll this out. I've already floured the rolling pin. It says 3/4 of an inch. We'll have to see how I can get it. It's pretty elastic. This is just regular wheat all-purpose flour. It called for a specific name brand on the Clabber Girl baking powder, but I didn't have that, so just using what is available. This is actually a quick bread. Gonna try to get it rolled here. And then I'm just gonna, instead of using a cutter, Mom has one, I'm just gonna use a knife. This way you don't have to roll it twice, knead it twice, which actually for this type thing doesn't actually work as well. Not as pretty, I guess, but more practical, which is something my mom's always done, and I guess kind of rubbed off, being practical. These will still be just fine. They'll taste wonderful, then they won't be overworked from rolling them twice. Actually, when I was a kid growing up, I remember Mom making us sandwiches out of buttermilk biscuits that she'd rolled out and cut into squares. And then she would use the odd pieces like this as bread to go with gravy, because we didn't have the money to have store-bought bread, and she didn't have time to make any. I'm going to put these in the oven. It's warmed up. Set it for 12 minutes so I can check it. We'll go from there. Well, we're getting ready to do the dipping the pretzel rods. The caramel took a while to melt. I had to look up how to do it online. The chocolate's been waiting. We're going to start doing this in a minute. I'm going to move them closer so we're not reaching across the hot plate. Just put them on trivets or something. I researched how to get this to melt, and it said to add water or milk. So I'm going to dip this just to see if it's going to work, because Mom says she thinks I've got it too thin.
It's perfect.
And she says it's perfect. Although I think it would be even more perfect with a little more
Of course.
on it. So it looks like we're going to start dipping the caramel. Let it cool before we dip the chocolate. I'm going to get Mom over here on the right, and we'll move the camera between us. Okay. So we can both work together here.
You can do these little short ones first.
Yep.
These are the sampler ones.
Yep.
Do them fast. Make sure you leave enough handle. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get these. Think we'll speed up the film. We can do that.
It's always fun to do little things like this, though.
Yeah.
Remember when you kids used to do the candy molds and paint rainbows and things?
Oh, that was, yeah. I remember doing the painted candy molds. Growing up, we did all kinds of fun stuff in the kitchen. Mom was always doing different things. And we didn't always have a lot of money, but we always had a lot of fun playing in the kitchen and doing different things. And
we didn't have TV. We had to make our own fun.
I had rheumatic fever, and the doctor told Mom to keep me down, and she said how, and he said figure it out. She started me on handwork, latch hook, went to needlepoint, ended up cross stitch, and then ended up putting me in the kitchen with her, and I'm going to do one more.
One more?
Yeah.
We're going to have to put it in the fridge.
Yeah, we will. So then she ended up having me go in the kitchen with her, and I always liked to cook ever since I think I was 7 or 8 when that happened. So spent a lot of time in the kitchen, and so we had a lot of fun as kids. So just this is kind of a continuation of what we did when I was a kid. The holidays always involved candy and cookie and cake baking, and this was something that would be a lead up to any number of holidays growing up. We did kind of go nuts with stuff like this, which was fun. It was a fun family endeavor.
And we didn't just stay in the house when you were
Oh no, we did all kinds of stuff. I mean, rheumatic fever wasn't like I had to stay inside. It had to do with enlarging of the heart, and they wanted me to stay inactive so that it didn't continue to grow. It wasn't like I was sick or had a fever. It was just the enlargement of the heart. And so that's what Mom did to keep me inactive, was something that didn't take real physical activity. And I mean, we went out. It was like a tradition. The day after Thanksgiving, we always went out and cut down a Christmas tree if we lived somewhere where we could actually cut a tree. And then we just went nuts doing the indoor stuff, particularly when we lived places where it was cold and had weather. When you live somewhere that gets down to minus 70 with wind chill, you don't really want to go outside particularly. So we did a lot of indoor stuff, and cooking was one of those things, and doing the candies, and we had a good time doing it. It was something that I always enjoyed, and I still enjoy cooking. And probably one of the reasons that the old comfort foods are some of my favorite to eat as well as cook is because they're things that we had because we didn't always have a lot of money, like Mom making the homemade biscuits and then making gravy to go over them after she made sandwiches to send to school out of the biscuits. So Mom was always creative on stuff like that, and we always had fun doing things, particularly for the holidays. Something like this, Mom actually got this to do for Christmas, and it didn't get done, but we're getting it done eventually. Or still.
Valentine's.
Well, yeah, tomorrow's Valentine's, but that's not really why we're doing it. I've been wanting to do it for a while, and having this new channel, it gave me an excuse for us to do it. So
Here we are.
yep, here we are. I think I'm gonna have to put the caramel back on the. I brought in a hot plate that we're using for a bit to do this because it was actually easier than the stove. The stove just traps the heat under the cupboards, and this gives the full all the way to the ceiling for the heat to go away. So we're going to do that for a bit and get back. Well, I've got the caramel reheated, so I'm going to try to do a few more of these. Mom's trying to rush getting the others out of the... She put them in the freezer.
Uh-oh. Guess what I learned? You need to put these on and something besides this.
Well, let it warm up a little bit and it might come off easier. She's got them sticking to the wax paper after being in the freezer.
I think you should have panned it.
Maybe we should have sprayed it or something, but she broke one. I'm more worried about just getting these done. There's about half of them maybe with caramel, and we still have chocolate. And tomorrow we actually have an appointment to get stuff done on our car, so we'll be busy tomorrow. I guess if I'd have been really being creative, I'd have made the pretzel rods too. That's actually something I would like to do, and I'll have to learn how. Looks like we're down to the last three. I'm going to end up with some extra caramel. Mom said, oh good. So I guess she likes the idea of having a little extra. Well, we're done here until we get the chocolate. Well, the caramel pretzels are there, and the excess caramel is melting the ice cream here. Oh, if I can get it on camera. So we're taking a break. I much prefer Mom's double boiler to mine. The one that we did the caramel in was mine. It's one I got from a sale at the neighbors. When they went into assisted living, they sold a lot of the stuff out of the house, and I got that. I've been looking for a double boiler for quite some time, and that one was $1, so Mom actually bought that for me. I'm just kind of dribbling the chocolate on, trying to keep the caramel as well. Doing these samplers first. I have the hot plate on still, so I can put the chocolate back on. It's not staying as liquid as the caramel was, probably because it's been on a lower heat. But it's still, for the moment, liquid. Mom remembered that with caramel, when she'd made it when we were kids, that she'd always done a buttered plate. So that's actually what she's done, and even with that, the caramel's sticking a little bit.
I forgot. Candy making doesn't do well on rainy days.
And she said candy making doesn't do well on rainy days, and we're raining. Have been since yesterday. And it's supposed to be for the rest of the week, every day, but tomorrow, well, starting again tomorrow night, but tapering off tonight. But it's still, this isn't like candy making like what she's...
Like when I made homemade caramel.
Yeah, when
or
that it's because of the water in the bottom, it keeps it warm. Mom's is stainless steel versus the aluminum one that she bought for me, but for $1 that was still a good deal. But yeah, this is gonna have to go back on. But the stainless steel is also a multi-core bottom, so it holds the heat. But gonna have to put it back on the heat for a minute. It's not warm enough. Maybe I'll have to move the hot plate over here so I can keep it on it instead of just putting it on the trivet like I did with the caramel. It's still liquid, but not liquid enough. Had to heat the chocolate a little bit again and move things around to make this more workable. Mom talking about the candies. We'll have to get into some of the ones that she used to make. She used to do divinity, and she used to do hard candies or lollipops, all kinds of fun things. And this still isn't warm enough. But she did some really amazing things with candies, and that they definitely do. You don't want to do them on a really humid or stormy day. I've done chocolate before, but never over something else, and this is not as easy as what I've done in the past. And I think we're actually getting some of the caramel coming off into the chocolate, which is affecting it as well. Not sure. It's almost like I'm painting the chocolate on.
You've not got it too hot, have you?
No, I don't have hot enough.
Well, because if you get it too hot,
yes, I know.
It starts to harden.
Well, maybe that. I think it's that it's not hot enough. And I think we're almost out of wax paper.
Good for Werther's for making caramel.
Is Werther's
I'll
made
let
caramel?
them do it.
Yeah, this was your idea.
I know, craft and Werther's. Well, that's because it's so good. I wanted to.
Interesting point of fact. Putting the water in the caramel thick made it liquid. Putting it in chocolate will destroy it. Too much heat will destroy it. You have to use a double boiler. Standing over it kind of makes me not really care for it, although in a couple days after, it'll be a lot more appealing to me. I've dipped the not pretzels, the smaller ones, and those actually dip, and I had no problem doing those, but for some reason I'm not having much luck with this chocolate on these larger rods with the caramel, and I think I'm having caramel drip off into the chocolate. It's not how it should be. I'm gonna probably paint these. I think I need to get it done, and gotta find something to paint it with. Mom's got these basting brushes. She just got them. I'm gonna attempt to paint with these if I can get this to look like it's at the right consistency. Maybe it's the spoon cools it too much or something. I don't know. But I'll see if I can paint the chocolate after I clean up a little. Consistency of this chocolate just seems off.
Yeah. It's not like anything. Of course.
Maybe it's the humidity or the weather, or who knows. But it just doesn't seem to have the right consistency.
Of course, it is not true dipping chocolate.
Yes, I know it's almond bark. That might be part of it. I'm gonna try to keep doing these. We'll see how much we can get done. I'm gonna turn off the camera. I've already got tons of footage I'm gonna have to edit. I think I've been dripping caramel into the chocolate, and that's causing it to not want to cooperate. I'm gonna just paint these on and drip them over this plate here. This is gonna be time consuming. There's a bunch. So like I said, not gonna do all the footage. Well, had a lot of excuses for why the chocolate wasn't working. I'm just going to blame it on user error and call it good. When I brushed it on and cleaned the brush between, it seemed to work better. This was the first cleaning of the brush, and this was at the end. These are definitely looking better than some that were in the middle, but I think it was just I was getting caramel in the chocolate, and it was making it not work properly. But that's going to be some tasty chocolate. We'll just cool it in the freezer or the fridge, and then just, do some cleanup. There's the broken one that I don't want to touch because it's all slimy all over. But I've got to do some cleaning, and hey, user error. We all make mistakes. Have to learn somehow, and I didn't research enough before we started this project. Thanks for watching Perhaps Cooking. Feel free to share, give me a thumbs up, or subscribe.